There are so many different metrics in the contact center business that you can easily feel lost. Do you want to understand your inbound call flow better? Hi, I'm Attila, and today I'm here to show you some of the most important inbound call handling metrics of the contact center industry. You wouldn't believe how many metrics are measured during a simple customer service call. Now I will show you what's happening in the background of an inbound call and what metrics you need to measure in order to have efficient contact center operations. First, I will guide you through a typical inbound call journey. Next, I'm going to explain to you in detail what's happening in the background of this journey. And last but not least, I will talk about some important inbound call flow definitions. Let's get started. Let's see a typical inbound call journey. Keep in mind, when you are talking about a call, it means we are talking about a customer who wants to get in touch with us. Just imagine, Mr. Smith received our invoice and noticed that our service fee is higher than it should be. So he picks up the phone and calls us. This is the first call. Hello, you've reached Best Services Limited. Please choose an option from our menu. After listening to the IVR menu, Mr. Smith chooses invoicing. Mr. Smith hears the usual GDPR information, your call will be recorded, blah, 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 blah. What comes next? Some relaxing music. And while the music is playing, the IVR says, all of our agents are currently busy, please hold and we will answer your call as soon as possible. Mr. Smith listens to the music and the announcement pops up now and again. Then in a few minutes, he gives up and hangs up. After his dinner, he dials the number again, reaches Best Services Limited and lands in the IVR again. But he hangs up immediately because he forgot the invoice. That was the second call. Finally, with the invoice in his hands, he makes the third call. He chooses the invoicing option, listens to the recorded message, the music starts playing, and after a gentle beep, a customer care agent greets him. Good evening, Best Services Limited. This is John. How can I help you? Mr. Smith briefly explains his problem. John asks for his subscription number and checks his data. It turns out that the invoice is indeed higher than it should be. John needs some help from his supervisor to correct the invoice, so he asks Mr. Smith to hold the line. Mr. Smith gets the chance to listen to that lovely music again. After 2 minutes and a short discussion with the supervisor, John is back. John explains to Mr. Smith how this problem will be solved and how the company will compensate him. The conversation ends on good terms, Mr. Smith is satisfied and hangs up the phone. It's true that the conversation ends here, but John still has to take care of the administration. Using the CRM system of Best Services Limited, he corrects the invoice. He chooses the correct disposition code and gets himself ready to take the next call. Now this is the end of the call and the call handling process. The last part is administration, or in other words, wrap-up time, earlier called after-call work. This is an important metric in the contact center industry, and believe me, you will struggle with it all the time. We will talk about that a bit later. Now let's analyze the call from the system's point of view to see what's happening in the background. Let's take a closer look at the inbound call flow. During the first call, the first thing we are able to track and measure is when the call lands in the IVR. This is when Mr. Smith listens to the recorded message. Technically, the call is connected, and from the very first second of the IVR announcement, Mr. Smith is being charged for the call. After listening to the menu, Mr. Smith will choose the relevant menu point, in our case it is invoicing. What's happening in the background? Once Mr. Smith pushes the button, our contact center system creates a timestamp, stores this information, and at the same time tries to connect the call with an agent in the invoicing queue. As all agents are busy, or more precisely, there are no available agents in the queue, The customer waits and waits. After the customer hangs up, we have a lost call. And here we have our first metric. We can calculate an important KPI using this metric called lost call percentage. The calculation is easy. The number of lost calls divided by the sum of lost calls and answered calls. Before we go further, we need to clarify what all calls means. All calls are not just the ones that are handled by your agents. I will show you a scenario to better understand it. In our second call, Mr. Smith hangs up the phone without listening to the IVR announcements or selecting a menu point. This is an incoming call which landed in the IVR but couldn't be answered by an agent because it was not requested by the caller. This is also counted as an incoming call and is also part of all calls. Let's get back to the third call as we have more data to analyze. The call landed again in the IVR. Mr. Smith selected invoicing, and as there was at least one agent available, the call was connected. Now it's important to talk about another metric, and this is speed of answer. By pushing button 3, invoicing, Mr. Smith expressed his intention to talk to somebody. That's why the call distribution rule directs the call to an agent queue. Speed of answer is measured from the second Mr. Smith pushes the button until the call is answered by an agent. At peak times, when our inbound customer service lines are overloaded, these waiting times can be pretty high. This can be very frustrating for our customers. Speed of answer will definitely influence our customers' opinion about our services. Therefore, we should always keep it as low as possible. Here we have an additional metric, and this is ring time. After the system detects an available agent, the call will be routed to them, and in some systems, the call will start to ring on the agent side. It's important to note that you can set your system to immediate connection, which will skip ringing, and the call will be connected to the agent without any ring time. If you use this setting, you can save valuable seconds. If you add up these seconds, you will see how many hours your customers spend listening to a useless ringtone. Let's calculate. We have 10 agents working 8 hours a day and answering 15 calls per hour. If you are open 20 days a month, 12 months a year, then your call volume will be 10 times 8 times 15 times 20 times 12, which is equal to 288,000 calls. If you save only 4 seconds ring time per call, you will be able to save more than 1 million seconds altogether. That means you will save 384 working hours. Just think about how much one agent costs per hour, multiply that by 384, and you will see that you can save thousands of euros. Remember, we are only talking about a 10-agent operation. You see, I already saved you a few thousand euros simply by turning on auto answering in your system. What comes next? Talk time. Mr. Smith and John started the conversation, and this period of the call is reported as talk time. The length of the conversation depends on many things: the complexity of the question, the preparedness of the agent, how efficient your CRM system is, and so on. Getting back to our example, there was a short interruption in the call when John put Mr. Smith on hold because he had to ask something from his supervisor. When he put Mr. Smith on hold, talk time was paused and instead hold time started. Hold time is not talk time, but it is also part of the call handling time. Call handling, in other words, is the time we spend on the line with the actual call. Besides talk time and hold time, there is another scary metric, and this is wrap-up time. We used to call it after-call work, or ACW for short. This is a real pain in every call center manager's life. Wrap-up time is mainly call administration in your CRM system. After the call, the customer care agent might need to open a ticket or finalize an order through an inbound sales line. It's critical to administrate the call details and the to-dos, but you should try to do it during the conversation. Like it or not, agents normally use wrap-up time for taking a short break as they don't want to burn their real break time. Close monitoring will help you to decrease your wrap-up time. At the end of this video, I will give you a tip on how to reduce this metric. But now, let's get back to the topic. Agents usually close the call by pushing the next call, available or save button after choosing the right disposition code. It really depends on the contact center software you use. After pushing the save button, your agent will be available for the next call. From that moment, available time will start. If the lines are busy, the available time won't be long, as your agent will probably receive the next call right away. But if you are overstaffed or you're right after a peak period, available time might increase. Sooner or later, the telephone will ring again and another caller will be connected to your agent. So this is the standard inbound call flow. To fully understand the background of the call flow, let's talk about a few call and call flow related definitions as well. In many calculations, you need to use all calls and not just the ones handled by your agents. Handled calls plus lost calls plus calls handled in the IVR plus blocked calls. This adds up to all calls. Let me explain each of these categories. Handled calls are the calls where the caller requests to be connected to an agent and the call is answered. If the lines are busy and the waiting time is too long, some customers will give up and hang up. These are your lost calls. There is another type of lost call when the caller terminates the call but within a very short waiting time. Usually this is less than 5 seconds. These are short calls. It's nearly impossible to handle this type of call. In many reports, short calls are excluded to have a realistic overview about service levels. The IVR system is not just for greeting the customer and routing the call to the right group of agents. With a well-structured IVR, you will be able to deal with a large number of incoming contacts without involving an agent. You can use it to answer easy questions or give general information. For example, if there is an internet network outage somewhere, the number of incoming calls will dramatically increase. But with a short message in the IVR, you can announce that the problem will be solved soon and please be patient. These calls can be handled by the IVR and therefore don't require extra agent resources. This way, your agents have less calls to answer and you can save time and money. A blocked call happens when the customer can't connect because your inbound line capacity is too low. I read everywhere how important it is to report the percentage of blocked calls. Report it, I'm shocked. The point is not to report it or not. The point is that you have to be notified when it happens and solve the problem immediately. If you use cloud-based contact center software and you have a quality provider, it shouldn't be a problem. With a good provider, it is easy to increase your contact center's inbound capacity within a few minutes. Let's see the next definition. Log time is the time between when the agent logs in and logs out of the system. There might be logouts during their shifts as well for various reasons. Therefore, you should deduct these logouts from the log time. The first login and the last logout can give you the work hours of the agent's shift, but be careful to use this figure if you have shared or on-demand shifts. Next, we should check the agent's available time. This is the time they spend waiting for the next call. If the available time is too high, it means you are either overstaffed or do not have enough calls. If your available time is too low, it means you either have high call volumes or not enough agents. Low available time could also mean high occupancy, but be aware, it can make your agents tired, which could lead to higher handling times. The next definition is talk time, which is the period of time your agent spends talking to a customer. In our example, we can see that Talk time consists of two parts with hold time in between. Hold time is when the customer waits on the line while your agent collects additional information. If you put a call on hold, I recommend play music in the background, as customers prefer to listen to some relaxing music instead of frustrating silence. Another important definition is call handling time. Call handling time is the period of time agents spend answering and completing the calls. It measures the following: talk time, hold time, and wrap-up time. And here we are again at wrap-up time, which is one of the most important core-related definitions. I promise to give you a tip on how to reduce your wrap-up time. Sit behind your agents one by one and start recording some data like this. Track the length of the calls, what the call is about, and how much wrap-up time your agent needs. After 5 or 6 calls, you will see that wrap-up time will be shorter and shorter as your agent realizes that you are monitoring them. Believe me, now they are trying their best. Compare with the data from previous calls when the agents weren't monitored side by side, and you will see the difference. Don't forget to show these results to your agents. Now you understand what's happening in the background of a simple call and how many metrics need to be measured. In our next video, I will show you how you can calculate your KPIs using these metrics. Stay tuned. Thank you for joining this session today, and if you have any questions about inbound metrics, feel free to reach us at academy@vcc.live. Also make sure to browse other content here at VCC Live Academy. See you soon.